Welcome everyone to the second lecture of marketing research analysis, right. So, in the introduction we discussed about what is market research, what is marketing research, how it is important and what is the role of research in it, how firms have made advantage of by using research properly, and some who could not use research, how they met with a big loss, right. Even so, it is very clear that research is required. There is no doubt that there is no question in mind that without research we can live in this competitive world, because every other day you see companies are coming up with new products, competitors are coming up with new policies, everything is coming up. So, if the firm does not understand how it would be able to beat, or how it will be able to find a gap in the market, then it becomes a very difficult proposition. So, research becomes very helpful in this whole process, right. So, we will go through in the today's lecture about how to first identify, they say sometimes that if you have identified your problem well, you have done most of your research or a substantial part of your research, right. That means, if a problem has not been defined, a problem is not been explained properly, then that problem is very difficult to get a result. It becomes very complicated, right. Even in a personal note, I can tell you an example of one of my friend who was doing his PhD with me, and suddenly after 3 years he realizes that he was not able to get data on his topic, right. His research design was not the right one he was thinking as he was thinking. So, as a result, what happened? After 3 years he had to change his research topic in PhD. So, that is a very dangerous thing. In today's world you can't afford such a waste of time, right. So, let us see how do you define a research problem, but before we do that we will go into the steps of the entire research process, right. So, marketing research or any research for say has got several steps, the steps we say steps. So, to start with, it is the problem identification. To start with is the problem identification. So, you have to identify, as a researcher you have to identify what is my research which I am going to do, right. So, let us see. So, problem definition. So, what am I doing and am I going in the right way or not, that is the secondary thing which will come. So, development of an approach. Now, if this is my problem, for example, just now my student was saying starting a laptop takes sometimes time, starting a mobile takes time. So, when you do this, is there a way that competition, the firms will competitors will want to bring in this time of starting a function or starting the laptop in a very little time? It saves time. In earlier days, if I remember, it used to be like moving around and around, so that it used to take a minute or so to open up. So, nowadays it has become much faster, but can it be still faster is the question, right. So, maybe tomorrow firms can compete on this basis, right. It becomes a competitive strategy and advantage for them. So, how do you do it? So, to do that you have to understand what is that path that I will approach, that what is the path that I will take in order to solve this problem. So, I have identified the problem. I told you about, for example, Tata Ace. Tata found that in India the streets are congested, and if the streets are congested, then there is a problem of travelling. They came up with a solution, they identified the problem and they came up with a solution. Similarly, many other firms have done it, and there are so many examples, right. So, once you do it, the second step is the design, which I have said as the approach, right. Development of an approach to the problem. You have to go to Delhi from here. You can go through several ways, but one might be very long, the other might be moderate, the other might be much shorter. So, which is the right path? So, everybody would try to optimize the resources and utilize the best possible way, right. So, research design is nothing but, you can say it is a blueprint, it is a blueprint or a map, you can say a path, right, which basically helps you to understand what is the right approach, what is the right way of doing a thing. Okay. Second, once you are done with it, I will explain the types of research design maybe a little later, right. So, so once you have formulated the research design, the third step which comes in, so you have to formulate the research design, right. So that is what I am saying. Then you have to understand ki what is my data. For example, to do anything for analysis, for example, I need the data, right. Okay. So what is the data I need? For example, if I am doing a study, for example, let us say why do people, how do people in a store behave, for example, let us say. To do that, I may require the people's observation. I need to observe the people and see actually what they are doing. Maybe they are liking one product, but they are buying another. So maybe this is because of the price, maybe this is because of the placement of the product in the store, it could be anything. Okay. So to do any analysis, I need the data. So data collection, which I have also said there, data collection, okay, becomes a very important factor, right. So the question is, as I said, I can have a primary data, I can go to the field, collect the data, or I can use the data of which is already existing, which is called basically the secondary data. For example, let us say the stock price of a company, or the the last year results of a company, the profitability, the market share and all these things of a company. Or let us say if I have seen, if I have some earlier database of people who have purchased Bullet, Enfield Bullet, for example. So I know what is the mindset of people who, or what is the demographic variables, or what is the psychographic variables, or what is the characteristics of people who are buying Bullet. So if I can correlate people who are buying Bullet will also tend to, maybe they will buy, let us say a Jeep. So if the database of Bullet I have, I can use it for Jeep maybe, right, if there is a correlation, right. So you have to understand how is your data there and how it has to be collected. Then what I say is one of the most important thing which generally people avoid, this is mostly all researchers avoid, they think it is not so important, which is the data preparation. Now a data is something which is very raw, correct, it is very raw in nature. So a data will make no sense until and unless it is being properly utilized, okay. So you have to prepare the data. Now for example, a data which is let us say in a binomial form, or let us say in a non-metric form, will have very less ability to explain, right. If a data is more in a, let us say in a normality, a normal form, in a normal distribution form, or you can say in a metric scale, for example, those data have larger explanation power, okay. So as I said, if a data let us say is in 1 0, yes no, right, another data is in the form of let us say in an interval, for example let us say 1 2 3 4 5, 1 meaning very poor, right, and let us say 5 meaning very high, right, or very strong, for example. Now when you have this data, obviously this data has a larger explanation power than the the one which is in the dichotomous form, yes no or something, right. So we will go slowly into these things, right. And finally is the data report preparation. This is very important. Sometimes people think the report we will do the work and the report is not so important because it can be done by anybody. No, it is not that. A good report is equally important, because at the end of the day this is the result of your hard work. So if you have not done it well, maybe it will not be liked by many, okay. Now let us look at this. So what is this guy thinking? He is confused, he is thinking where to go, what to do, right. So the point is, we all come into such a position in life once at least, right, not once, many times in fact. So so in such a condition, this is a condition where it is becoming important to, he is trying to identify the problem. What is the problem, where is the problem, he is thinking, right. Now this is a case, this is a case which is very important. Let us see what it is happening here. One day the guy says, I received a phone call from an analyst who introduces himself as one of our alumni somewhere, right. He wanted help on analyzing the data. What is he saying? He is saying that let us one second, I will use this. So, he wanted help on analyzing the data he had collected while conducting a marketing research study. I am sure researchers, students, even executives, they must be facing this problem. Sometimes you collect the data, but then the data has been collected in a format which is very clumsy, which is very difficult to understand, and which I have seen thousands of times. And sometimes you come up with the data and say, please analyze the data for me. So, that is very difficult when you do not understand how to help somebody with analyzing the data, right. So, what has happened? Now, there is a group of people, intelligent people, right, and now thinking what to do. He presented with a copy of the questionnaire and asked how he should analyze the data. Questionnaire is a format, is a way of collecting the data, is a structured format, you can say, right. So, the question to him was what is the problem being addressed? What is the problem? What are you going to do with this data? What are you trying to address? So, if you do not understand the problem being addressed, then your research is it is very difficult, you are going to land up nowhere, okay. Okay. Now, the same case you see, he explains that data analysis is not an independent exercise. This is very important, which I am going to repeat now. Data analysis is not an independent exercise, please remember it. Why? Because if I am teaching marketing research, I am concerned about the consumers, the market, and all the things, functional areas which are connected with the marketing, like product, promotion, price, and all these things. But suppose your objective is something to increase the efficiency of a machine, then that is a different kind of research, which is the operation research, for example. Or somebody is interested to understand the volatility of the stock market, then that is a third different kind of a research, where you are trying to understand how the financial market moves, for example. So, understanding the object as for example, you see data analysis will not be useful until and unless you understand what it is meant for. So, saying a course of data analysis does not mean anything, does not make a sense until and unless you connect it with, for example, we say marketing research and consumer behavior. So, consumer behavior is determined through marketing research, understanding the market share or the market potential through the market research. So, these are something connected with markets. So, wherever there is a consumer, there is a kind of a potential gathering. So, you think of how to increase the market share and all these things, and there you use marketing research. But otherwise it could be an operation research, it could be a systems research, it could be something like a financial research, right. So, what are you exactly doing? So, the goal of data analysis is to provide information related to the problem components. So, are you clear with the problem components? The first question that comes to the mind. If we are not clear with the problem components, then we would never be able to reach to a solution, okay. I was surprised, he says, that he did not have a clear understanding of the market research problem and a written definition did not exist. Now, what do you mean by why is a written definition so important? You see, for any PhD topic or any thesis or anywhere, if you see, why do we ask for a topic, name of the topic? In a nutshell, it tells the whole story, behind the 200 page volumed or 120 page, 150 page volumed report. What is the whole thing all about in one line? So, if you are not able to define, your problem or give a name to it properly, then that means somewhere we are not clear, okay. So, I had to define the marketing research problem, he says. Once that was done, I found that the data collected was not relevant to the problem. So, all the efforts went into vain, into futility. That means your efforts were waste. You had done all the hard work and now it is of no use. A new study had to be designed and implemented to address the problem. So, can we understand how the gravity of the situation is there, right. The importance of properly defining the problem. So, problem one is moving this side, the other is sitting on the elephant and he is trying to thinking of a solution by moving this side. Is it possible ever? Two opposite directions for the same problem? It is never going to happen, right. So, sources of problems. The sources of problems could be the gap between what is supposed to happen and what did happen, failure to meet objectives. You can identify your problems through several ways, through discussion with experts, through reading literature, literature review, and then understand what is the gap lying in the whole process. So, and what did happen, right. So, for example, sales calls below target number. The problem is there is a sales call which is below the expected number, right. Sales volume below quota or return on investment below the desired target, right. So, to understand this problem, to define this problem, a company wants to know how to address this now. The second is gap between what happened and what could have happened. Suppose, let us say, as I said in my first class, suppose I have priced this stick at 100 rupees, but people are ready to pay 120 rupees and I have sold 1 lakh products of it, 1 lakh pieces of it. So, every piece I have missed 20 rupees. So, that means I have without any problem, without anything, I have just lost 20 lakhs simply, right. So, one has to define the problem in a way what increase in sales, for example, if we change the product features. Suppose for example, Dhara changed its product design, the packaging, and to its dismay it found that people did not like it because they made a triangular packet which was affecting the the small babies. Sometimes they were playing and they were hurting themselves. So, such kind of designs were more deterrent to the market. Okay. So, these are some of the things which examples to how do you define, right. I have taken this Honda sports car, I will try to give this case. Honda came up with a the mothers of drivers said that their children were getting affected while driving a adventurous sports car and they should provide safety. When Honda did it, they found that the sales went down. Why did it happen? When people were asking, so why did the sales go down? The simple reason was that the drivers who were the major influencers, they said if the fun has by giving the safety you have reduced the fun, and if there is no fun then why should we drive the adventure sports car. So, the company realized now they had done some mistake, right, by not taking into cognizance. Paperboat is a very interesting Indian startup, is an Indian company which takes you across to your childhood days and tells you what had you missed or what are you missing today. It tries to identify the problem that people are that today, for example, people are stressed, they are leading a very stressful life, and in this they are trying to give them something, connect them something with their childhood thoughts and memories. So, this is a very again interesting case. Recognize the problem. You can see this. Am I dictating too fast? The guy is asking. No, I did not understand a word of it anyway. So, sometimes there is a big mismatch. Okay. To recognize a problem, managers must be knowledgeable of objectives and actual performance. You should know what you are actually doing. You should be able to define your problem, right. To be aware of opportunities, you must have a process for monitoring opportunities to identify the opportunities. Okay. Questions and answer. If you answer these 6 questions, you are in the right path. Okay. Who would need it? The question. The marketing research should start with this. Who am I going to do this research for? What is needed? How do I go about it? What is needed? When will it be required by the people or the consumers? Where, why, and how many, for example. If one can answer these 6 questions, then it so happens that it becomes much simpler. If you can answer these questions, it becomes much simpler to have a target. As I started with, if you have a problem of reducing your, let us say that people are not happy with the too much of time being taken to open a laptop, to start the laptop. Now that is the problem. So, if the company has identified this problem, he can come with a solution, right. So, he says who is the person who is asking and what is the need, when he basically needs it and how does he need it, for all these questions are to be answered. Okay. There is a something called, managers must be careful to avoid confusing symptoms with problems. This is very important. So, if you are a student or a manager does not matter, you should be able to avoid the confusing symptoms. There are sometimes symptoms, right. We have a problem, we are losing money. No, it is not a problem, it might be just a symptom. So, the problem might be somewhere else. So, maybe you are doing something, for example, let me give you this example. IBM thought that its core competency was hardware and not software. As a result, they gave the software part to they outsourced the software part. But in a few years time, IBM realized they made a biggest mistake of their life. They had given up all their core competency and now they were left with nothing else. So, as a result, it so happened that it also gave away the hardware part also went away from them and Lenovo took it over. So, you have to understand that the symptom is different from a problem, please be very careful with it. Symptoms are changes in the level of some key monitor that measures the achievement. The role of a symptom is to alert the management to there is a gap between what should be happening and what is happening. Okay. What is the role of the researcher? So, if you see, the researcher should ensure managers are defining the problem correctly, right. So, this is particularly important because if you are not defining your problem correctly, right, then the researcher should take some additional investigations like a Sherlock Holmes, right. You should try to find out some other means how to what is the exactly the situation, right, which is known as a situational analysis to ensure the problem is perfectly defined. See, what I am trying to tell you here is one needs to understand there is a difference between a symptom and a problem and you need to define the problem more accurately, right. What are the problems? Generally people love their ideas too much. I would request you all researchers, please do not love your idea too much. It is not necessary to love your idea, because if you start loving your idea too much, then you will become blind to many other things that can be possibly done. Okay. Okay. A process. So, there is no universally accepted step by step approach used by marketing researchers, right. Defining problems accurately is more an art than a science, says Gibson. It is not a science that you can say step by step this will happen, that will happen, that will happen and next this will happen. No, it is not possible. It is more an art, how do you design it altogether. Now, this is the entire problem definition process. If you look at it, if it is clear. So, what are the tasks involved? Discussion with the decision makers. Now, for example, if you are a manager, it is a different thing. If you are a student, then you have to discuss with your guide, your supervisor, right. What am I going to do? What is the decision that is required, right? What kind of? Then the tasks involved are maybe interviews with experts or a primary data collection or maybe a secondary data collection, right. Then analyzing the data, right, or do some kind of a qualitative research, for example. The environmental context of the problem is also important. So, in which context are you doing? Suppose, for example, how much of time is there in your hand? How much of resources are there in your hand? So, if you have a limitation of time and let us say money, for example, then you have to understand what is your major framework, in what boundaries you have to confide to. Okay. So, for example, there is an interesting debate on this. You see, management decision and marketing decisions are two different things. Okay. So, let us say the objective, theoretical foundation, how it approaches. For example, I will tell you more in a discrete manner, in a explicit manner, how the research goes in, where you have to first define a problem, then identify it, and then read literature or create some theory behind it, understand the theory behind it, develop the hypothesis or research questions, right, as it says hypothesis or research questions, and then collect the relevant information that is required behind it. Okay. So, now as I was saying, there is a difference between the management decision and the marketing research. Now, management decision is more holistic, is more larger perspective, right. Should a new product be introduced? Should the advertising campaign be changed, right? Should the price of the brand be increased, right? On the other side, consumer marketing research says to determine consumer preferences and purchase intentions. What are the purchase intentions? Determine the effectiveness of the current advertising, how effective is the current advertising, right, and determine how elastic. In fact, if you remember, I told you in the first lecture also that people are very sensitive to certain products, the price elasticity changes with products, right, and what is your product, accordingly you have to decide. Now, let us take this case of a firm which is manufacturing these pipes, okay, tap basically. So, the problem statement here is this faucet's handles looks nice, but they are not functional when your hands are wet and soapy. So, what is the solution? Redesign these handles so that when a person's hands are wet and soapy, they can still easily be gripped. So, as a result, when you understand the problem more clearly, explicitly, you have a better way of thinking, you can get a better solution obviously, right. Now, assessing the manager's background and the situation is also critically important. You have to understand which industry you are operating in, right, who are your competitors and the company, right. Does the manager have a particular objective, because there is a goal conflict which can happen in firms also, and between, suppose for example, the supervisor and the scholar also. The supervisor hopes something else, the scholar does something, has something else in mind. So, in such a condition there can be a conflict in interest. Okay. So, this is very dangerous, which one has to give a solution to. Okay. A researcher must understand the control system and determine what symptoms are being identified by the system. So, symptoms are sometimes very dangerous. I have a pain here, it does not mean I have a problem of liver, it might be just a problem of, or a kidney problem, it might be just a problem of maybe acidity, right. So, understanding a symptom and a problem are two different things, please be very clear. Pinpoint suspected causes of the symptom. There is always some cause or causes for a change, right, there is always some cause. It is important to determine all possible causes, right. You have to understand what are the possible, if you have missed, for example, we will say when we get into the data analysis side, we say the coefficient of determination. Now, that value explains how much of explainability we have done in the entire research, how much of explanation we have been able to do. For example, maybe our 34% is the R square. So, we will say 66% has been lost, or it is on the reverse, if it is 66, then we say 34% has been not explained. Okay. So, how much you have lost is very important. Researchers should narrow possible causes to a small set of probable causes, right. You should be able to narrow down, otherwise if you get into a large kind of a problem, you would not be able to, it is like catching the elephant. As Mahatma Gandhi said, if you hold the elephant's tail, you think like it is a rope, if you look at the ears, it looks like a winnow, right. Okay. So, proper definition of the research problem. So, you have to define the broad statement and the specific components. So, this is the marketing research problem. So, you can have several problems. Why do consumers let us say not buy I would say natural products in a large scale, for example, or let us say why do we still prefer let us say a cold drinks over a good health drink, a juice, fruit juice or something. What is that so great about it in a aerated cold drink that you buy it at 20 rupees or 10 rupees, but you do not buy a fruit drinks which is the same price or less than that even, right. So, there could be several such problems. This is the one case which I am giving you. You can see this is a case of a department store. This is a case where the marketing research problem is to determine the relative strengths and weaknesses of Sears. Sears is one of the retail store, and what research are required. So, specifically research should provide information on the following questions. So, Sears wants to do a study, and the questions that it wants to have is what criteria do households use when selecting department stores? That means, how do you select a department store, which is an important part of retail study, retail research. How do households evaluate Sears and competing stores in terms of the choice criteria identified? Which stores are patronized for specific product categories? So, for a specific product category, are people liking a particular brand store or some other store? What is the market share? What is the demographic and psychographic profile of the customers? Can store patronage and preference, patronage is basically kind of loyalty, be explained in terms of store evaluations? When you are able to do such a research, then you identify well, if I am able to understand, then Sears would say tomorrow that my customers are basically a profile of this characteristics, and to tap this particular kind of segment of people, I need to change my basically strategies, right. And this is how the entire research goes. So, as I said in my let me recapitulate the whole class is, whether it be a manager, whether it be a research scholar, anybody, or a researcher, any researcher, you need to identify your problem, and once you have identified the problem, the next steps can be much easier, because you will then know what are the right path to adopt, and then what is the methodology, and then how to analyze the data and come out with a solution. I think I have been able to explain you. Thank you very much. We will meet in the third class. Okay? Thank you so much.